Hello? Yeah. Hello, am I audible? Am I audible? Good evening, everybody. My name is Ms Heera Nawaz, and I am a teacher, a writer, and a poetess by profession. I have worked in many international schools and have won many Best Teacher awards. Recently, I won the Most Dynamic Educator of India, awarded to me by Iowa, and I also was included among the 100 inspirational educators of India. But not only teaching, I also enjoy writing very much. I'm a member of many poetry groups on social media, and I've won many prizes in their competitions, and I've got a whole stack of certificates which I've won. I'm also on the poetry review panel of Haven International, and I think that writing poetry is just a wonderful hobby of mine, and I try to make it into something more than a hobby. But I want to make it my profession now. But I think all these qualities of my getting awards in poetry writing and teaching mean nothing if a person is not kind-hearted. Maya Angelou rightly said, "People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel." So, on that note, I will start my session. It's for half an hour. And so, I hope as many people as possible, my friends, colleagues, students, and classmates, can listen to my half an hour session, which is also, I believe, going to be aired on YouTube. Now, the first part of this session is we were expected to tell the value of poetry and what it means to us and why we enjoy writing poetry and what are the different topics one we like writing about. So, to answer that question, I wrote a poem entitled Value of Poetry, where I describe the various uses of poetry, how it comes from the heart, from the basic recesses of the heart. And it's very, very therapeutic, it's very cathartic, it's very inspiring. It can cause people revolutions, it can cause um, many historical events to happen. So I'll read out this poem because I believe that it answers the question of what is the value of poetry and what I think about writing my poetry. Poetry resonates with much value and meaning in every line. No matter how much critics crib, criticize, and whine. Indeed, the value of poetry is unprecedented with varied uses. Though critics dismiss it, saying it's for impractical recluses, poetry writing is usually initiated when one is a teen, when from one's parents, from comic reading books does one wean. One values poetry because it can evoke feelings of every kind. It can replenish the soul, energize the heart, and satiate the mind. Shakespeare, Keats, Shelley, and Tagore did beautifully right, taking the significance and caliber of poetry to a new height. These poems wrote sonnets, limericks, poems raising the bar, catapulting them due to their rhythmic assonance in a new avatar. Each unique poem has a lucid, subtle, and deep meaning. It revolutionizes, enriches, and strengthens every leaning. In the virtual world of poems, they are larger than life and real. Moreover, poems make human beings soulful as they deeply feel. Poets use words to express deep sentiments and thoughts that indicate how one thinks and how beautiful is one's soul. Poems can cause wars, abort rebellions, and imitate revolutions, besides being perfect copy for dialogue in every actor's role. So that's what my poem tells you all about the value of poetry. And in addition to this, I would like to tell you what kind of poems I write. I write mainly on nature because I'm very fond of nature. And I think that's one of the most beautiful topics one can write on. I also write about relationships. I write about love, and I write about different days like Mother's Day, Father's Day, Teacher's Day, and so many other days which we celebrate. So I've written poems on all those occasions. So my first poem, which I'm going to recite for the evening, is "Don't Cry, Mom." So this is actually an imaginary poem. The facts are real, but the how I'm going to recite it is not real, because it's about my friend Anita. She had a 13-year-old daughter who succumbed and died of cancer. So before she died, she underwent much suffering because cancer patients suffer a lot. And then when she died, I've imagined myself to be Tamara, and I've gone to heaven. And from heaven, I'm looking down and seeing my mother Anita crying and crying and crying. So I write this poem in order to comfort Tamara's mother Anita. Tamara, so this I'll give a short introduction first. Tamara, my best friend Anita's daughter, was a 13-year-old young teenage girl who was diagnosed with malignant cancer, which, as we all know, is fatal and incurable. Thus short of her 14th birthday, she succumbed to this cancerous carcinoma. I have written the following poem pretending that I am Tamara, who has just died and is in heaven. My purpose being to comfort her overwrought and shattered mother, Mrs. Anita John Ninen, and to her lay of feelings and foreboding fears. Mothers of cancer victims may be able to relate to this poem. So here goes the poem. Mommy, dear mommy, darling dearest, don't sit up all cooped up on the sofa and cry. I am your lovely and feisty daughter Tamara, who unfortunately, by a quirk of fate, was destined to die. Yes, the culprit was a cancerous carcinoma that ebbed my strength, enfeebled me and made me weak. It slashed my spirit and vociferously sapped my energy, making me, when alive, dread a future so bleak. I remember the day I rushed to you with a headache, which persisted and which would never quite go away. At last, you took me to doctors, specialists, and experts. But really, mommy, cancer is too high a price to pay. The cold, dampening diagnosis obsessed my mind. As I remember staying at hospitals and leaving school, me, who had always been the studio's bookworm, but now being destined to be just nobody's fool. Mummy, remember how you tried your optimum best to ease, alleviate, and relieve my excruciating pain. But alas, every sickness has its dose of sordid suffering, while my emotion and feelings began to wax and wane. During these painful sessions, I longed to improve. I was given injections and antibiotics, but never got better. The damage was done. The disease cell proliferating as the diagnosis weaved its curses in spirit and in letter. Chemotherapy and radiation were two treatments that sapped me of my strength while I tried to improve my life. I tried philosophy when I realized that my life was doomed. Mommy, I will never be a girlfriend. I will never be a wife. Hospitals are depressing places, and the medicines are usually bitter. While I asked God, why was there this multiplying of my cells, making me always tired, fatigued, and despondent? The worst blow being, I will never experience wedding bells. My dull, drab hair fell from my head in woolly clumps, making me bald at last, but itching and burning to fight until I realized that it was a losing battle, for I had lost my resistance. I had lost a lot of weight and was a dismal sight. My Waterloo with myself was approaching, unprecedented, as I wondered cluelessly and puzzled, God, why me? Doesn't a young teenage girl need to see and experience life? And isn't she supposed to grow into the best lady she can be? Mummy, the hours and minutes are flying past irretrievably. Soon there will be the epitome of the empty nest, which implies that children will flee their parents' abode. Really, Mummy, I tried really hard, but failed the deciding test. Mummy, tell Johan not to be heartbroken and melancholy, for he is my one and only erstwhile blood brother. He has to live and savor his full earthly term while we always have to pretend that we have each other. From heaven, I now see you, wish the long, long days away, urging me to somehow miraculously come home. But here I try to send you heartwarming messages that you've got dad and Johan, and fortunately you're not alone. Mommy, don't feel overwhelmed and yet emotionally overcome that you have a mortal human body, which is now denied to me. Indeed, parents usually die before their children. But, mommy, God made you so very special, don't you see? Mommy, my headaches were wrenching and unbearable. Promise me, mommy, that for my sake you will be strong. So when a flood of tears threatens to overwhelm you, take a beautiful Jesus Christ hymn and sing. Sing along. Tamara died before her 14th birthday in the year 2003. 21 years have passed. My friend Anita has never gotten over it. She immerses herself in work and frequent Bible group meetings and bonds with other women who have lost family members. Once Anita said, if Tamara was alive today, she would have been 35 years old. She would have probably been married, and I might have been a grandmother. But now I'm just a grieving mother. Cancer takes the life of people in the most merciless way, leaving heartbreak and pain in its wake. Indeed, Tamara's life was a short life of suffering with cancer, it being without remission. It's been 21 years in lovely, studious Tamara bid us adieu. Anita, my friend, has braved a teary life by praying. She dutifully distributes sweets on Tamara's birthday God's ways are not our ways, goes the earthwhile saying. Okay. Thank you. That was my first poem where I try to infuse as much of emotion and feelings because I believe poetry is a very deep kind of genre and it's much, much more beautiful than prose. Prose doesn't bring out the deep feelings, but when we talk about emotions and we write in the form of poetry, it brings out those feelings, and even a person who is non poetic can appreciate. My third poem is called Proffering Relationship Advice. Now, this is a poem I thought of reciting because it has a moral or message. It is a very beautiful poem which I've written about Uncle Steve Harvey. As most people are aware around the world, Steve Harvey is a famous television personality. He has a program called Ask Steve, where the audience has to ask him questions on their relationships, and he answers it in a very useful and humorous way. So I feel he's a really great man because he really helps in patching up marriage relationships and making people friendly once again. In this way, he's helping in making the couples happy, and they are a unit of society. So if the couples are happy, the society also becomes happy, and it makes for a beautiful world. So I wrote this poem, and then if I'm lucky or if I'm fortunate and he happens, I'm going to send the video to him and he might play it on his show. So let me see if he does that. Proffering relationship advice. I imbibe much wisdom and knowledge about relationships from Steve Harvey's happening show. I watched with keen interest as he demystified relationship tangles, revealing how friendships flow. The guests on his show seem pretty ordinary, but they've qualified to be there by extraordinary act. They showed tremendous grit and tenacity, making them household names across the US. That's a fact. I learned from Steve that through ups and downs, he instinctively sensed that his wife Marjorie was the one. She being gorgeous lady who walked her talk, delivered the goods, and yet also was a lot of fun. Yet Steve forcefully says that for relationships to work, they must be backed by hard work, for much is at stake. And yet keeping a relationship shouldn't be such an ordeal. For true and unconditional love is mutual and not a fake. Countless people have come to popular Uncle Steve with a complicated, bizarre relationship woes. But Steve sometimes feel using his own common sense that they themselves are their own biggest foes. Steve is old school enough to ardently believe in the beautiful concept of chivalry and praying diligently to God above. For he asserts that personality towers over perfect features of beauty and that the winner is always love. He never underestimates the power of genuine parental consent while all other folk are forsaking. Never let your parents down, he says, even though love appears misleading and that heart is breaking. Sometimes Steve explains cleverly that in some cases, the said parties need to rethink and possibly heal. For nowhere is it truer that the beautiful plastic doll loses and the black sheep of the family effortlessly wins the deal. For those second time rounders who must guard their once broken feelings, Steve suggests going through dating sites. For where else would second chances find suitable manageable within the ambit of matrimonial rights? Steve is prudent enough to acquiesce with the men and women who are militant feminists at heart, though he concurs that women are masterpieces of God and are the unique, indispensable works of art. At the end of the day, Steve emphasizes that what trumps all is not perfection per se, but pure, unconditional love. When a man hunts for his true soulmate, like dwelling into Pandora's box and extricating the great treasure trove. And then Steve smiles, genuinely happy that man has found his angel without wings, which is life's ultimate goal. Steve, happy to be a catalyst in helping thousands of people selecting their diamonds from that piece of awkward coal. This is a poem I to give heartfelt thank you to Uncle Steve, who is through his TV show have thousands of persons find their dream partners, companions, and soulmates. In this way, they have made happy, adjusting couples and have helped cementing the society into a strong, cohesive, and happy bond. Thank you, Uncle Steve, on behalf of all of us here. We know that you have so many people find true happiness, for you are an authentic spokesperson for God. Thank you. Okay. Um, Actually, I've written hundreds of poems, and rather than, I've already cited three of my poems. So, to end this particular session, I thought of writing a poem, reciting a poem about a famous poetess. She's my favorite poetess. I mean, she's the most amazing poetess, Maya Angelou, and she has won the Nobel Prize for Literature for a poetry. And she wrote a poem, Still I Rise. And it's not my own poem, but I want to recite it because I feel it has a deep meaning. It is a beautiful poem and it gives the message that people should not give up in life. They should not give up. They should not quit. They should not throw in the towel. There are three choices. You can give up, you can give in, or you can give it all you've got. So I like my Angelo, want you to stay determined, even if there are obstacles and problems and ups and downs. Stay the course, keep the faith. Don't quit, don't care, don't get upset and lose all faith. Keep trying. And never, never lose your faith and quit. Never give up. So she wrote this poem called Still I Rise. And it's one like an anthem now. People all over the world recite this poem when they want to motivate people not to give up. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me on the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Because I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing forth, still I'll rise. Do you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, because I love like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, Like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history, shame, I rise. Up from a path that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling. I bear in the tide, leaving behind nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of a slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Okay. So these are the four poems which I've recited. I hope the people who are listening enjoyed listening to my recitation. I tried my very best. I spent the whole of today preparing for it because I wanted it to be a success. So definitely, I want to thank Prasanna Kumar sir. He's been a very, very encouraging friend, and he has tried to help us and always tries to encourage us to write more and more poems. On Sunday also we have a weekly session, but I decided to join for this session, which is where different poets and poetesses recite their poems for half an hour on all of the weekdays. So, having said so much, I would like to conclude by saying thank you very much for listening and giving a patient hearing. Goodbye.